are some big pattern ideas to use in your accompaniment during the climactic section of your song. For today's tutorial, we're going to take a basic left-hand concept that most gospel pianists know, and we're going to tweak it to show you how to create some big left-hand patterns for really bigger sections of a song. If you've enjoyed today's tutorial and are looking for more left-hand pattern ideas, head on over to newmerciesmusic.com and check out this resource. Left-hand patterns for accompaniments and hymn playing has several options in here for whether it's a more flowing section, utilizes different rhythmic variations, bigger chords, and here you will find more ideas and concepts for the left hand. And you can find that at newmerciesmusic.com. So a concept that most pianists are familiar with is what we would consider an octave chord or a bass chord concept, often considered stride as well, depending on how you were taught. So what that would mean is, let's say we're in the song in the key of C, and if we were doing a octave chord or stride pattern, you would either utilize an octave of whatever chord you're playing. So I'm going to play the C chord, and I would play one of its tones as an octave, and then transition up to a chord, and really just depending on wherever my right hand is would determine where that chord would go. So for instance, this pattern can be utilized on a lot of hymns that are a little bit more lively and gospel style. So like a song like At Calvary might sound like this. Octave chording is considered octave chording or stride and is used quite frequently. Now, this is a great concept to understanding big left-hand patterns. So maybe you have an accompaniment and you're trying to figure out, how do I make this big? Octave chording concepts are huge for this. So let's just take this general idea, and it could be a single note depending on what is needed at the time in the left hand. It might mean that you need just a single note held down and then you're going to come up and use some chords, or maybe you need a big octave because you want a really strong bass for that section, really dependent on where you're at. So the first thing to do when you are wanting to tweak this octave chord pattern, while we can utilize the octave chord for a big section, we have to be careful in how we use it. So let's take a look at a hymn, This Is My Father's World, to demonstrate this concept. Now, I'm going to utilize this in really a big section of the song. So maybe we're going into that last verse. It's really big. And in my right hand, I'm going to play the melody so that you can really understand what's going on and listen to that sound that I'm creating. But let's take the idea of the octave chord and let me demonstrate how we utilize it without it sounding really with that gospel shuffle feel. There, I was going back and forth between octave chord, but one of the things that I'm doing in this style here, one, I'm not rushing it. That's one part of this concept. But then two, I'm really emphasizing more or less the melody, and the chord is not getting as much of an emphasis. So I'm being really careful not to do something like this. Emphasize that chord too much, it really drags the attention to the bass sound as opposed to what we want to hear, the melody, and just using that chord to come up and fill in. So a way to tweak this pattern and to change it up a little bit, instead of doing an octave and then coming up for a chord, octave, chord, we're going to do something like this. Octave, chord, 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 octave, chord, 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 octave, chord, 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 and utilize that style of pattern. We're in 4/4 timing, so it works really well for this one, but you can also tweak this in 3/4 and any really time signature, 6/8, 9/8. So it would sound something like this. If this tutorial has helped you, please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share it with others.